Hi guys! Today my hi guys is a little bit constricted because every time I lift my arms too high, this shirt rides up. But anyways, today we're going to be talking about the website shophush. I came across this on Instagram. You may have seen it there or seen some other Instagrammers talking about it. But this website seems to have a lot of palette dupes along with some other more typical brands, I guess you would call them. LA Splash, Milani, there's a little NYX on there, some Korean skincare as well. So I thought I would take a little look, purchase a few items, let you know how my experience with shipping was, along with the actual palettes themselves. I seem to have a dupe here, for the Huda Beauty Rose Gold palette, along with the Anastasia Modern Renaissance palette. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's quickly touch on the shipping before I get into everything, and I will have timestamps down below if you're curious just about specific items. But that was the thing I was the most nervous about. As a Canadian, you know the struggle of ordering things anywhere. The shipping can take a really long time. If you're paying in American dollars, you're paying a lot more than if you were to pay in Canadian dollars. Then of course you can be hit with customs at the door. Overall, I've got to say my experience with this website was really positive though. I placed my order on the 27th of August. It shipped on the 29th of August, and I actually got it on September 4th. So it only took 7 days from order to it showing up at my door, which is amazing. If you're American, you're probably like 7 days, but in Canada, that's pretty good, especially from a website that I wasn't totally sure about. You are paying in American dollars, so that is definitely something to keep in mind. I used PayPal to pay. I always have a little bit of American money in there to kind of cushion the burn of paying in American, and I had no problems or issues with payment there. And best of all, I was not hit with customs at the door. So I think that that is really good. I mean, that could vary case by case. If I place an order again, I'm not totally sure. This was my only order. But that being said, I did pay $20 in shipping, which is quite hefty, but the palettes themselves were cheap, so that's kind of where I justified. And again, as a Canadian, sometimes you need to come up with these little rules and regulations or things that make you feel better for paying $20 in shipping. So let's go ahead and chat about the palettes. So the palettes that I purchased are both from the brand Bad Habit, and from what I can gather, it seems like Bad Habit is only sold on shophush. I actually went to their website first and it directed me to shophush. So I purchased the Aphrodite palette, which is the Huda Beauty dupe, and then I also purchased the Royals palette, which I didn't actually realize at the time was the Modern Renaissance palette dupe, but I just saw the shades and it looked really, really appealing to me. These are both made in China, but I will say that the quality actually feels really nice. It kind of has that sturdy cardboard feel. I wouldn't be afraid to travel with either of these. They are both made in China, but it does list on them that they are cruelty free, which I think is really cool. And this Royals palette says it's formulated without parabens, if that is something that's important to you. They both retail for $10 American each, which is incredibly affordable, especially if you're American, considering this website does $25. You hit a minimum of $25 and it ships for free within the USA. You guys are so lucky. I also want to say that I have a little bit of guilt about purchasing palettes that are dead on dupes for other things, because I love this industry and I love that there's so much time and effort, and obviously there's a ton of money and research that goes into creating a palette, and for someone else to completely take advantage of that and jump on the bandwagon after they know this is already a popular palette and people are looking for alternatives is kind of crap. But it's also business and happens in every other industry as well, which doesn't really make it right. But there's also the case of people not being able to afford, for example, Huda Beauty's palette, which in Canada retails for over $80. So I don't know, it's totally up to you, but let's go ahead and just chat about the palettes and the quality. So the Bad Habit Aphrodite palette is the first one that caught my eye because it is a dead-on dupe for, or it looks to be anyways, a dupe for the Huda Beauty Rose Gold. I don't actually own that, so I cannot confirm by any means if this is close to it, other than the fact that it looks very, very similar. I really did want the Huda Beauty palette, but I just never kind of jumped on it. It was going in and out of stock. It's like $85 Canadian, and I didn't pull the trigger, but I really did love the shade. So as I mentioned, the packaging feels really, really nice. You're getting 18 shadows in here, and then you're also getting a nice big mirror. You have a combination of matte, some pretty high metallics, and then also a little bit chunky kind of foiled shades. I have used this palette a bunch, as you would have heard when I ordered this palette was in August. August, and I have worn it in a bunch of videos, so I will link to any of those videos down below. And then I also have a demo of me creating a look with it on Instagram, which I will link to it down below if you'd like to see it in action. Overall, for $10 or like $15 Canadian, I really do enjoy this palette. I won't say that it's as good quality as some of my high-end shadows from someone like Anastasia or Too Faced or Lorac, or even like the Sephora Pro palettes that I have, but they are really, really nice considering the price. I think they do feel better than a $15 eyeshadow palette. The foiled have a really nice finish to them. They're highly metallic. I have a good wear time with these. I always prime my eyes though, because I do have oily eyelids. I don't find that they get muddy, but one thing I will say is I tried to create an all matte kind of brown look with this. It did turn out a little bit more purpley on my eyes, and maybe that happens with other shadows too, but I hadn't really experienced that before. But then again, I did create another matte look with some of the more warm shades, and it turned out nicely. I definitely love the shimmers in here. I think a little bit more than the mattes. The mattes are a little bit dry, and it's not that they're hard to blend, but they just aren't the best mattes that I have. I've been enjoying reaching for it, and as I mentioned, I was always really intrigued by the Huda Beauty palette because it had just a great combination of shades, and one of the shades in here that actually really impressed me, even though I just said I really like the shimmers, is the shade Koi, which is kind of a matte cream shade. It just is the perfect tone for my skin tone, and it does have a nice bit of pigment in there. I also, like I said, love all the shimmers in there. I created a beautiful pink eye, like I mentioned, on Instagram. So overall, I will say that I really do like this palette, and I do feel like there is good quality there. So if you were lusting after the Huda Beauty palette and didn't get it for whatever reason, I think that this could potentially be a good alternative, but I just like it as a palette on its own, and I don't know that I can really separate it from the fact that it is an exact dupe from the Huda Beauty palette, but I really can't say that, you know, ditch your Huda Beauty Rose Gold and get this instead. I'm sure the Huda Beauty palette is absolutely gorgeous. I haven't touched it or even seen it in person, so I can't say for sure, but as a palette on its own, I do really like this, and I have enjoyed reaching for it, and I don't regret purchasing it, and I do feel like it is a good buy. Moving on to the second Bad Habit palette that I purchased, and I'm just realizing now that their company's name is Bad Habit, and I feel like it is a bad habit to dupe eyeshadow palettes, but anyways, I bought it, here I am. This is the Royals palette, and it's essentially a dupe for the Modern Renaissance, or it's trying to be anyways. They don't say it anywhere on their website that like this is a dupe for this, but it's pretty easy if you know your palettes what is what. They also have a Subculture palette up there, which I feel like they turned that out pretty quickly because Subculture launched not long ago. But this one for me, I don't love as much. I don't know if it's because I have such a strong love for Modern Renaissance that this just didn't really do it for me. But this has 14 different shades in there. 11 are matte and 3 of them are kind of a shimmer formula. You are getting a mirror in here as well. And this one for me, I thought was interesting because I think the first look I created, and I will link to it down below, I used the shade Primrose in here, and the shade that Primrose is trying to be from Modern Renaissance is the shade Bon Fresco, I guess it is. And I don't know if I've ever reached for the shade in this palette, but I did when using the Royals palette. So I don't know, I'm definitely going to try it out of the Modern Renaissance. You'll see in my swatches that they look comparable in the swatches, but to me on the eyes they just do not perform the same. And if you have the Huda Beauty palette and the Bad Habit palette, you may be able to say the same for that. So let me know down below. I'm curious because I'm kind of going into that one blind, but this one I know what it's up against. So to me, the shimmers are definitely not as strong in here. The mattes are not as strong either, although in the swatches they look okay. I still don't think they blend and kind of mesh as nicely on the eyes. They do tend to get slightly muddy. That being said, if like you absolutely cannot spend the cash on the Modern Renaissance and you have this burning desire inside of you to create looks that are similar, this will probably get the job done, but I definitely think the Modern Renaissance palette is superior to this one. It is really pretty though. I mean, like I said with the other palette, it does retail for $10. So for $10, I think that the shadows in here are good. Overall, I really quite like the Aphrodite palette. I've been enjoying using it. I've been enjoying creating looks with it. It definitely has my kind of palette of shades in there, and I think you can get a lot of versatile looks because obviously Huda put a lot of work into creating those shades. As for the Royals palette, I kind of regret it because I didn't realize, even though I said if you know your palettes, you'll probably be able to tell on the website. When I purchased it, I didn't realize that it was a dupe for Modern Renaissance. My bad, even though it's like my favorite palette of life. So that one to me, I regret a little bit because I already own Modern Renaissance. I was not looking to dupe it, but I was just blinded by the warm shades. So let me know what you think about palettes that are dupes of other palettes. I can totally appreciate both sides. And another takeaway from this video is that the website doesn't seem to be a scam, which was something I was worried about going into. I hope you found this video helpful. If you are curious about this website, if I left anything out, I tried to cover as much as I could. Be sure to ask me down below and I will of course answer your questions. And let me know if you have purchased from this website. Have you been curious about it? Will you be purchasing now that I've given my review? Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to connect with me, you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Snapchat at SamanthaJaneYT, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!